Exercise 1. Photoshop is a unique program in that it can do anything you can do in the darkroom. Uh, but it has some unique things to the program. One of them is there's virtually never just one way to do something. This can be very good. It can also be a little bit frustrating. But you have to figure out which way you prefer, and then you can just begin concentrating on that. Also, there are a lot of ways to open pictures with the computer. As far as Photoshop is concerned, there's only one way. You have to go in and open the picture with Photoshop. That means clicking on the image and dragging it down to the Photoshop icon, or going under File and opening the image. Now, exercise 1 has 4 different pictures that we're going to go into and try to fix. So I'll open them all up. Then we'll go in and open the other 2. Now, each of these exercises will also have one labeled as finished. You can go into it and you can see what the final product should sort of look like. As you begin to get into these exercises, don't let that finished file influence you too much. What you want to do is begin to use your own creativity. Now, each of these pictures they've got into here has a color imbalance. In other words, the colors are wrong. There are certain things that you quite often have to do with pictures when you bring them in. You may have to do cropping, in other words, which is changing the size of the picture. You may need to change contrast. You may need to change, get rid of dust spots, and you may have to adapt the color. The camera, when it takes the picture, sees color as it really is. We see color through the eye, filtered by the brain, which means it corrects it a bit. So the camera won't correct it, which means you're going to have to do it using the Photoshop. Now also at this time I should point out, depending on which version of Photoshop you're using, there may be slight changes in this screen. For example, where the tools are may be slightly different, but the tools we're using will still be there. The palettes will probably look the same, but there may be some other palettes that have been added or palettes that are missing. Now what you're doing, you're learning very basic Photoshop. These are basic principles which are there in any of the versions of Photoshop. So in other words, the things that you're doing here aren't going to change depending on what version you're in. However, how you do them may change. And fixing color is one of those things that has changed slightly over the years. Here we're going to demonstrate 4 different methods for fixing the color. But you may not have all 4 of those methods. For those of you who have the newest versions of Photoshop, the 4th method, variations, is no longer there. For those of you who have very old versions of Photoshop, the 3rd method, actually adjusting the curves, may not be there. If you don't happen to have it, just skip over it. Okay, we've opened all 4 pictures. This particular version of Photoshop has added a feature which when you open pictures they all link together like a palette. I don't know why they did that. It annoys me, and I'm pretty sure there has to be some way of turning it off, but I don't know what that is yet. So at this point all you can do is separate the pictures by pulling them apart. You go up, you grab the tab, and you simply pull the pictures apart. Okay, I'm going to be working on just one picture at a time, so I'm going to reduce these other pictures, get them out of the way, and bring up the picture we're going to work on. Okay, at this point I'm going to show you some things which, as you get used to Photoshop, are not going to be necessary. First one I'm going to get into with this picture, I'm going to go up here under Image, and I'm going to duplicate it. In other words, I'm going to copy it. That gets me the same picture. Then I'm going to go back to the original picture and I'm going to close it. Reason for doing that. You may have a tendency when you finish up the picture and you go over here and you want to save it, you just go in and you click Save. With a lot of computers, unless it's blocking saving, what you've done will automatically be saved back to the original file and will alter the picture that's there. When you've duplicated this picture, you can't do that. It will not go back and alter the original picture. Okay, now with this picture that's here, I want you to see what changes are being made. So the easiest way to do that, go over here onto the Layers palette, click on that image and drag it down to duplicate it. So I now have two copies of the picture, one right on top of the other. I'm going to be working on the top copy. The bottom won't change, so I'll be able to see the changes that I've done. Okay, over on this side you have the palettes that are opened up. And this is pretty much the normal palettes. The colors, the history, and the layers palette. In this case, I need the information palette. So if a palette isn't open, you simply go under Windows, you go down, you find the one you want, information in this case, click it, and we open that palette up. Now, on this information palette, you'll notice you have on this side red, green, and blue, the primary colors as far as Photoshop is concerned. On this side, you have cyan, magenta, and yellow, the secondary colors for Photoshop, and the K here, which is black. And you'll notice as I move over the picture, the numbers in each of those different colors are changing as we get into it. So we're going to be using those. Now, this first method for fixing the colors is probably the simplest. It'll work in about 80% of the cases. The other 20%, it's not going to actually fix it. What we're going to do is let the computer fix the colors by choosing what it thinks is right. So I'm going to go under Image, I'm going to go down to Adjustments, and I'm going to open Levels. Now what we're going to use are these three little eyedroppers over here. And we're going to use those to tell the computer what's black, what's gray, and what's white, and we'll let it go through and adjust all of them. Now, the first thing, however, we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go in and set the colors just a little bit. See, there's seldom absolute black or absolute white in a picture. So, we'll go into the black eyedropper. I'm going to click twice on it, and it'll open it up. And when you open yours, these may be set to 0 or absolute black. I've already set these to 5. In other words, just a little bit off of absolute black. You're going to want to go in and also do the settings there. Now, when you've got that, click OK, and you're going to do the same thing for white. It's going to come up, and it may come up when it's first there as 255. I'm going to drop it down just a little to 250. That's why I'm saying that's not absolute white. Now, you'll notice something here. With Photoshop, when you reset things in it, they stay to what the setting you changed. With most of your school computers, if you're working on them, if you want to get it back to the original settings, simply reboot your computer. It'll go back to the original settings. Okay, now I'm going to go in, I'm going to choose that black eyedropper, and I'm going to go over into the picture and pick an area that is black, and I'm going to tell it, okay, that's black. Then I'm going to choose the white eyedropper, and I'm going to go into this picture and find an area that should be absolutely white. This picture, you'll notice, has a heavy yellow tint to it. So when I tell it this should be white, there will be a change to begin with. So I click on that. Gets rid of all of the extra yellow tint there. Still not exactly right. I've still got to set gray, or what we call neutral. Now as I go over this image and you watch these numbers up here, you'll begin to notice they all change. Well, neutral that I'm trying to get is 127. And I'm going to go into this area of pants down here that are gray. I'm going to look at what is the heaviest color there, which is saying is green. You notice that's the highest number. And I'm slowly going to move through those pants, and I'm going to try to find something as close to 127 as I can. It's pretty good. 123. Click on that. And that sets in the neutral gray. So we set white, black, and neutral. The computer will then adjust the other colors. Okay, so let's see what we've done. We've changed this top layer, the picture, so I can go in. I click on this eye, it'll turn that picture off, and I'll see the one below it. So I click on that. Notice that's the original picture. Turn the eye back on. That's what we've done. So that's the easiest method. Just let the computer do the correcting. Now what I want you to do, you're going to go into Layers. You're going to flatten that down so that it's one picture. If we've got multiple layers open, the picture will have to be saved as a Photoshop picture. And the problem is Photoshop pictures are quite big. You can't compress them. What we're going to do is go in and save it as a JPEG image. So then so File, Save As. Under there, if it's not set for JPEG, go down and click JPEG. Pick the file you're going to put it in, which will be your own file. In this case, we're going to put it in the new folder. Give it a name. So for this one, I'm going to put Exercise 1A. Exercise 1A. Then we're going to save it. It's going to come up here. This is the JPEG system. The higher this number, the lower the less it compresses it. 12, it'll save it as is. Down to 1 or 0, real compression. Don't go below 5. Medium compression, we found out that when you open the image, most people can't see any difference. If you get too far down, however, it's compressing the file a lot, and when you open it, you may begin to notice damaged areas in the file. So don't go below 5. Then you click OK, and it will save the image. So now you can exit this image and move on to the next one. Let's close that. Okay, the next image we're going to do is blue for the next method. Open that. Now this image, you'll notice, is way too blue as we're getting into it. What we're going to do with this, we're going to use another method called, again, Image. We're going to go down to Adjustments, and we're going to open the levels again. But this time, we're going to go over here and we're going to actually adjust the separate colors individually. This first level, RGB, will adjust the whole tones in the picture. So you can go in, make it darker, lighter, so on. But if you click on this, you'll notice it separates it down into the individual colors. So I'm going to go into whichever color there's too much of first. We'll go into the blue. Now Photoshop works with 6 colors. The 6 you've got up here. Blue, yellow, red, cyan, and green, magenta. You sort of have to remember what the opposite color is. But you add the opposite color, you're going to get rid of the color that's there. So in this case, we're going to blue. This end, the white end, you'll notice, as you move it, adds more of the color. The opposite end, the black here, will take that color out. So we're going to start getting rid of the blue. Watch the picture. You'll begin to see as it gets better. Getting more to a real color that you're into. The middle one here is for fine tuning. When you move the ends, the middle moves. When you move the middle, the ends don't. So you can go in and do a little bit of fine tuning with that. Okay. Now, this is basically just eyeballing the image, whatever looks best. When you adjust one color, however, you'll notice there are other colors that are wrong. So we've now gotten rid of the blue, but you'll notice he looks a little bit sick in here. Too much green. So let's go into the green, and let's get rid of part of that. So we begin moving that over. And as we get rid of green, you'll notice still too much blue. Go back into here, do the fine tuning. You begin to fix it out as you're going into it. What you're looking at into some of these areas that should be absolutely white, and you're going to see what area is still tinting in there. It still looks like we've got a little bit of green in it. But remember, we just fixed the green. So it's very possible that's not green, it's cyan. In which case we have to go up to the red, and we'll add some red to it to get rid of that cyan. Okay, we begin to adjust the skin tones there. Now we can go up to the RGB, the whole thing, and we can begin to do some subtle lightening of it. Okay, now with levels, what you're doing, it's eyeballing the picture. And you have to begin to decide what looks best. You just keep moving back and forth between the levels, changing the colors slightly until you get an image that you think looks best. Then you'll click OK. Now we've got that one. Another way you can see what you've just done, up here on the history, go up a level to open. You'll see that's what you started with. Then when you change the levels, that's what you've ended with. So that's what we call using levels. In this case, now that you've got it, save the picture and go on to the next one. I'm just going to close it. Alright, now we're getting into some things which you may not have. We're going to open Blue 2. Come on, open. And this time, we're going to go in and we're going to actually adjust the curves themselves. So image adjust, and we're going to go over here to curves. All right. Up here again, you'll notice RGB, the overall channel, which will let you darken or lighten the picture. And below that, each of the individual colors. So too much blue, we'll start with that. Let's go down to the blue. Now, this represents the blue through here. And you can literally grab this line and pull it either way. So let's start overall with the blue in the middle, and we'll start to adjust the blue. As I move it toward the right, it'll get rid of the color. If I move it toward the left, it'll add more. But I can move it over here a little. I can also go up and change just the top part. I could add a little more blue to the bottom. So I can go through and actually change the shape of this curve to get what we want. Alright, a little green there, so let's go in and get rid of a little bit of the green. Change that a little bit. Let's go up to RGB and let's change, see if we can lighten our face up just a little without lightening our headdress too much. There we are. Let's move that one back a bit. Okay, and so this is the idea of curves. You're just going to go in and adjust each of these curves, changing the shape of them, and it will change the color in the picture. Again, with this, because this is the whole line, you can move different parts of it different ways. So you're looking at the picture here from bottom to top. You can go in and change the curves into separate directions so that you don't change all of the picture at once. This is a relatively new method that's come out for the Photoshop, and it works very well. So got that, we'll click OK. Again, see what you started with, see what you ended up with. Save that one. I'm just going to close it. And we'll get down to the last one. Magenta. Again, this is a method which may not be there. If you have the newer versions of Photoshop, it isn't. We'll go in here and we're going to go down to variations. Now, this is based on the old color star, which is how we used to do it in the darkroom. You would actually have a sort of color star which you would lay over the picture in an area that was supposed to be white, and you would see what shades were actually there and how you'd have to correct them. Now, in this case, this is your original picture. It'll always stay this color. This is the current pic, which is what the picture looks like now. This picture and the one here in the center are the same. Now all around this picture you will see the 6 colors. You have green, magenta, yellow, blue, cyan, and red. Over here on the side you see the whole picture, to darken it, to lighten it, for the current pick. Up here at the top you can change just the shadows, just the highlights, or the whole thing. And this find a course determines how much change. The higher the number, the more the change. The lower the setting, the less the change. You're going to want to start out relatively high and work your way down. Okay, I think we'll start there because this looks pretty good. Now, this method, all you do, you look at the pictures around the center one, you pick whichever one looks better, you click it, it becomes the center, and they immediately all readjust. Okay, so got here, nothing really looks better. Let's try lowering the numbers. See if something looks better. Yeah, like that one. That changes it a little. Okay. And we just keep working down slowly, refining the colors, moving toward the center. Now you'll be able to see up here how much change you've made as you're going on. So we'll begin to get into these, changing them. Now, let's say just these dark areas may be the wrong color, and so I want to fix them, but I don't want to change anything else. Then I can go to Shadow, and you'll begin to see these areas that are lighting up. Again, I can increase how much the change is by increasing the coarseness, and I then can click that. You'll notice it'll change the area in here. Same thing for highlights, that's the white area. I can look at those. So, midtones. Let's see, I've got one of these that I think is better than this centerpiece. I can go to the highlights. I can adapt how much change we're going to get. And we'll click that, put it in. So basically what you're looking at is any of these that are better. You click that, it'll put the color in. That's a little better. And these will all change accordingly. Same thing here. We can go and make it darker. We can make it lighter. Same thing. Yeah, go a little darker. And you just keep doing that until you get what you like. A little more yellow. A little more yellow. Okay. Till you get what you like, then you click OK, and it will fix the picture, change the color. Again, what you started with, what you've ended up with. So here are 4 methods for fixing the color of the picture. Just pick whichever one you like best. Get used to it. I can tell you most people either like to work with fixing the levels themselves or fixing the curves. This is a method that lets you have almost complete control over the techniques. Variations was supposed to be very, very easy. It's one that they have phased out of the latest versions of Photoshop, and it's been sort of replaced by the curves. Okay, at this point, save your pictures, and you're finished with exercise 1.